Right, so wrestling shoot interviews are a bit of a lost art. They still exist, but they're not to the degree they once were. Shoot interviews that wrestlers did in the early to late 2000s were truly the Wild West, and they were not afraid to hold back on anything. And it led to some of the craziest shoot interviews of all time with many wrestlers from the past and present that you know very well, where they would talk about their views on the world and the wrestling business and other wrestlers in the wrestling business, of course leading to many drama and backstage problems and fights and all sorts of shoot interview responses. Many of these interviews were done while drunk or high, and safe to say the 2000s era of shoot interviews was truly a car crash, but one that you keep on coming back to. Still to this day, I'm always going back and watching old shoot interviews in my spare time, and these are some of the few shoot interviews that I think are some of the most heated and infamous shoot interviews in wrestling history, which I should be able to, touch wood, upload without any copyright restrictions. So like the video and let's begin. So as well as being a fan of wrestling shoot interviews, I also enjoyed going back and watching old episodes of The Howard Stern Show and the many fights and big arguments that took place on that show if you aren't familiar with it. Many wrestlers have been on The Howard Stern Show, and there's been many revealing and personal interviews on The Howard Stern Show. I remember Goldust going on there in full makeup and character doing his Tourette's gimmick. It's a crazy, amazing watch. He talks about the plane ride from hell and his ex-wife. That's definitely a future one to talk about in one of these videos. So leave a like if you want to see more wrestling shoot interview content, because I could definitely discuss this one as well. But the Howard Stern interview we are discussing today, or should I say Howard Stern interviews, is the saga that took place with Chris Kanyon, Ric Flair, and John Cena on the show in 2006. So it all started when Chris Kanyon went on the show in October of 2006, and he spoke about his firing from the WWE, and he claims that he believes he was fired from the WWE due to opening up about his sexuality and due to the fact that he was a gay wrestler. And apparently this interview actually upset many people within the WWE, according to Howard Stern himself, and a few days later they would have John Cena on the show to ask him about it, and John Cena was more or less waving the WWE flag and says that he wasn't any good, and that's the real reason why Chris Kanyon got cut, because he wasn't able to entertain the fans or wrestle as good as he could have, and also refutes his claim about his firing because he says he came out publicly after he was released from WWE. But if you know anything about Chris Kanyon, yes, he was publicly out after his release from WWE, but it was always an open secret backstage everywhere he worked. And Chris Kanyon went on the Howard Stern show a few days later once again, as this time Howard Stern had Ric Flair waiting on the phone for him, as Ric Flair was there to represent WWE and defend Chris Kanyon's claims that he made against WWE. And it led to a very interesting discussion because these two have known each other for so long, but Ric Flair disagrees with what Chris Kanyon is saying, and Chris Kanyon obviously isn't gonna agree with Flair, but at the same time has a lot of respect for Flair and thinks he's the greatest wrestler of all time, so it leads to quite a strange and uncomfortable conversation in hindsight.
All right, before we get to the party, Chris, you know, the guys from the WWE were in an uproar after your last appearance here. Did you know that?
No.
Ric Flair is on the phone. He wants to debate you.
Ric Flair is on the phone?
He says that he has a statement to make on behalf of the WWE. You accused the WWE and Vince McMahon of firing you because you were gay. Rick disagrees with that.
Okay.
You want to speak to him?
Sure.
All right, go ahead. Rick, hi. Rick, you there?
I'm right here, man.
How you doing, man?
That's Rick.
Great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, that is Ric Flair. He's a famous wrestler, and you work for the WWE, of course, and you're even in management. And what do you disagree with about what Chris Kanyon has said?
Well, first of all, I don't work in management. I just disagree with the fact that, and I'm disappointed because I know Chris very well, that he would blame something that's happened in his personal life on his job description. And I think it's real simple. Every wrestler in the country knows that you've got to be very good at what you do to be part of the WWE. It's a very difficult business to be successful in. And I think Chris has some shortcomings in the ring. And I'm disappointed in Chris as a person. I've known him a long time, that he would blame his shortcomings on something that's going on in his personal life.
Well, we had in the wrestler, who's the guy who just made the movie?
John Cena.
We just had John Cena, and he said that Chris was a good guy. He said, but he didn't have the skills to really be a WWE wrestler.
Well, he said he didn't have a great act. You know, he didn't act the part well.
Yeah, Chris has got the skills. It takes a lot more than technical skills to be good in the WWE or in the sport of professional wrestling. And Chris, I think, has got all the attributes. He doesn't have the act. John made a good point.
What about that, Chris? You were in the WWE, and your act was, you say, good until you became an out gay person.
My act was absolutely fine. It all depends on what they give you, what storylines they write you.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the writers knew. Rick, Arn Anderson knew for a fact I was gay back in WCW. I mean, he's your best friend.
I had no idea.
All right. It was not a well-kept secret in wrestling, and it figured into the storylines they gave me. Rick, you know as well as I do, if they don't give you a storyline, if they beat you every week, you're not going to be over.
Chris, you're counter. We're talking about your sexuality right now. We're not talking about.
No, that ain't what you were talking about. You were talking about I didn't have what it took to be a WWE, even though
you as a person, as a man, for blaming your choices in life on the business.
It's not a choice, first of all.
You have the skills, and you had the ability, and you had the opportunity. It didn't work out for you. That's got nothing to do with what you got going on in your personal life.
Totally disagree, Rick.
You'd be the only one, and you're lucky to be on the show and being able to air it.
But Rick, Chris was in the WWE for years, and there wasn't an issue.
He was in the WWE, but he was never featured. He was never a featured player.
Rick, how did I make it for 9 years on national TV in WCW, pretty much a promotion you made and carried by yourself? How was I able to make it there for 6 years if I didn't have the act?
I said you had. No, I said you had.
No, but how do you make it for 9 years on national TV from '95 to 2003? I was on national TV. If I didn't have the charisma, if I didn't have the act, how did I make it for 9 years? Explain that, Rick.
Well, I'm not saying you didn't make it. I'm just saying that I don't think anything that's happened to you right now, in the WWE, has anything to do with the fact that you've come out of the closet or whatever you've done. Because I had no idea. And nor did I care.
Rick, you've been in the business a long time. You know there's no kept secrets in wrestling. You know
it was me, and I've know just about everything there is about professional wrestling. I'd never known that.
Well, we got to take everything Rick says with a grain of salt. He still works for Vince McMahon. He's gonna, just like John Cena, he's gonna say what he thinks Vince wants to hear.
I got a question for Rick. Rick,
that's quite true, Chris. Go ahead.
Rick, why did they let Chris go then? Why did he get rid of him?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that.
So if you don't know the answer, then it could have been because I was gay and Vince doesn't like gay people.
No.
Oh, it couldn't have been that.
Definitely not that.
Could have been that.
But how do you know that, Rick? How do you know that wasn't it?
Because I know that there are gay people involved in the business right now that are successful.
But are they out?
No.
I don't know if they are or not.
No, they're not.
I see. Well,
I
listen.
thought there were no secrets in wrestling.
No, inside wrestling, he's saying. Outside of it, there are plenty of secrets.
Rick, we know a lot of guys inside the business that are gay, but they don't want to go national and be nationally out. I did, and I was punished for wanting to do it.
Well, I disagree. You got your opinion, I have mine, but it's hard to explain the business. I'm one of these very few, very fortunate guys that's been able to make the transition from year to year. I don't know how. It's been a gift that God gave me, but I know that I got to show up every Monday and I got to have my act together and I got to have my gig together and I got to be ready to go. And I think Chris, and I've said it before, all the talent in the world. But Chris, you didn't have anything to give to the show right now, and that's just the bottom line.
All right, so
So you think he could work for the WWE again?
No, I don't think he could.
Why not?
I think the opportunity for Chris Kanyon has come and gone.
So what opportunity was I given that I dropped the ball with, Rick?
I don't know, because I didn't know
none.
your act.
That's why for 9 years I was very successful. The only time I got fired is when I started talking openly.
We can go back and talk about who was good at everything 9 years ago. You're not good at it now.
Oh, now you're saying I don't have the skill now. You just said I have all the talent in the world.
You're saying
I am saying this is Ric Flair telling you have not got the skills or the ability.
That's very different than what you said in the beginning of this interview. That's very different than what you said in the beginning of the interview.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
I said
you said I have all the skill in the world. I just didn't have the act. Now all of a sudden you say I'm not good enough. You know the act is given to you.
John Cena said, yeah, you are not good enough right now to be on the show.
Okay.
All right, well, there it is.
Rick,
that's the bottom line.
Rick, why are you doing this and not Vince McMahon?
Why am I doing what?
Why are you the one on the phone and not Vince?
I don't know.
I can answer that.
I guess they wanted someone that has a lot of respect.
I can. They're all in Japan.
They know how much respect you have for me, Chris.
Dude, I have ultimate respect for you. You are truly the best in the business.
If I can be man enough to tell you, Chris, God bless you. You had it at one time. You've got a lot of ability. I'm not saying you still can't go through the motions. You don't have something that the show needs right now. And it's a hard, cool business. We let guys go every day that are nice people. It's not about being nice. It's about being good.
and I definitely am good enough. And
Well,
Rick, you haven't seen me in 4 years. How do you know if I'm good or not?
I know that if you had something to offer the show, you'd be on it.
Really?
Bottom line.
That's why Kurt Angle's still wrestling for WWE.
What's Kurt Angle got to do with it?
Because he has a lot to offer, and he still got fired.
Well, no.
So don't tell me if you have enough to offer, you're still going to be
Kurt
there.
Angle left of his own volition.
Well,
And I know that for a fact.
and you want to talk about John Cena? This is today's Daily News. In a review of The Marine, Cena is nothing special. I mean, this ain't just me talking. Cena doesn't have much to offer either. Cena's pretty charismatic, but when it comes to in-ring work, Rick, you know as well as I do, in-ring work, Cena doesn't measure up.
I think they chose me is because they know the relationship. They know that I respect you as a person because you've always given me the courtesy and respect that I feel like I've been afforded.
Well, there it is. You guys have had your words with each other. I'm glad.
I just want to get this straight. Rick was picked by the WWE to talk to us?
Yes.
No, he wasn't
Oh,
picked.
okay.
I've always wanted to get
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on, Rick.
I'm mad at Howard Stern for not having me on a show for my book tour.
Rick, we got to be straight. Hold on a second. WWE called me. I called when Chris was here. I called Vince. Vince wasn't available. He's in Japan. They offered me Triple H. Turned out that today Triple H is in Japan on this tour. So then WWE called me back and said, "How about Ric Flair?" And I asked them, can Rick speak to this? And they said he could. So in a way, they did pick you to speak for them.
Well, that might be, but I've always wanted to be on Howard's show. He's never had me on.
I'm glad to have Rick on, and I think Rick has made his point.
Well, but Rick says he doesn't even know why Chris was fired.
It would seem to me that this would be a better conversation between Vince McMahon.
I think so, too. Anytime Vince wants to talk. Rick, and you know I have ultimate respect for you. I was there the final night of Nitro, and we hung and we both cried. Rick, I have total respect for you. I agree. That you're entitled to your opinion, and that's who's laughing.
Are you attracted to Ric Flair at all?
No, Rick's not really my type.
Rick, you cried?
Howard,
Rick,
Got something to tell us or what?
Did you cry? Is that true?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Why the Hulkster, not the Nate?
Ooh. He wants to know why you had Hulk on here and not Nature Boy Ric Flair.
On the show all the time.
I don't. You want to know something, Rick? And I'll be honest with you. What I know about wrestling would fit into a thimble. My grandfather was a huge wrestling fan. Used to take me to all the wrestling matches and stuff, and that was my exposure to it. But I would. You know what it is? I knew of Hulk Hogan, so I had Hulk on.
Yeah.
Rick,
And I don't know that many.
Me.
So we'll have you on.
Rick,
Now you know of me.
Well, we'll have you on.
Please.
Rick, you say I'm not that good. Didn't you ask me to train your son, David? Now be honest, Rick.
I never asked you to
That's
train.
such a lie, dude.
I asked you to work out with them. It's two different things, Chris. We're not saying you don't have the technical skills.
You just did say I can't measure up. I can't do it in the ring.
WWE does not let talent, T-A-L-E-N-T, go because of their sexuality. If you have something that can
I guess you know Vince's mind.
Company, you're going to work for him.
I guess you could read Vince's mind.
Oh, I'm just telling you the truth.
No, you're telling me your opinion. I totally appreciate your opinion.
have
You know,
something to offer the
literally,
company
you're
that
my
will
favorite
generate
wrestler in the
income,
world.
You're going to work for
Rick,
him.
you're saying if you came out tomorrow out of the closet and you were openly gay, that Vince would keep you on.
Of course he would.
All right. Well, that's the
I have
answer
a
then.
brand
For
new
him.
ticket.
Definitely, that's his opinion. And Rick,
Right.
Rick is the greatest wrestler of all time.
He is.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris.
No problem.
All right, there you go. That's very nice of you to say, even though
it's
you're
true.
being sort of criticized here.
I want to commend these guys on the most civilized wrestling argument of all time.
Thank you.
Nothing like the show.
Hey,
Yeah.
you guys are all gentlemen. I'll tell you
Rick's a true gentleman.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
I believe.
And you're a great guy, and you shouldn't use the Howard Stern show to vent and bring your personal life forward.
Unlike you, Rick, they called me.
I believe, Rick, because don't you think wrestling's kind of gay anyway?
that. I don't know. I don't know anything.
Guys
about
in their underwear rolling around.
I don't know. Thank you, Ralph.
If anybody knows gay, it's Ralphie.
All right, hey Rick, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it, and we hope to have you on the show soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right, there he is. There's Ric Flair, who made a
The
statement.
Nature Boy.
And yeah, for Howard Stern show standards, that's a pretty civilized and normal conversation, but obviously in hindsight with everything that happens with Chris Kanyon afterwards in his life and his suicide that takes place years later, I find this to be quite an eerie and kind of weird conversation to look back on. And it's kind of sad to see how a lot of people didn't really have Chris Kanyon's back when he was out of the WWE. It for sure remains as one of the most interesting sagas in Howard Stern show history, especially amongst all the wrestler appearances on Howard Stern show. And if you guys want to see me talk about more wrestlers going on Howard Stern show, then let me know. I'd love to do that more. Awesome Kong's You Shoot interview is one of my favourite shoot interviews of all time, purely for the fact that she really holds no punches back. It's funny because she's so respectable and so loving towards the people that she likes, but anyone that she doesn't like, she keeps it no secret and just absolutely goes in on everyone. The most infamous segments from this interview are the hoe bag and the what a dick segments, where she just kind of reveals every wrestler that she doesn't like.
Bully.
He could be a dick.
Brian Knobs.
Ah, what a dick.
Got a picture I'm going to show you later. Madison Rain.
Whole bag.
Really? Right in, huh? Right in. Whole bag. You didn't even hesitate a second, I just want to tell you. Rebby Sky.
Whole bag.
Lacey Von
Whole
Erich.
bag. Bitch.
Rocker.
Funky bitch. And you owe my aunt some money. Pay my aunt her money for watching your damn kid, okay? Do that.
I'm guessing that Raka Khan goes in the whole
She
bag.
she going to big old whole bag all by herself. And that's
Dixie Carter.
you know,
So she goes in the bag.
she going to bag.
Tracy Brooks.
Whole bag.
Jackie.
She also discusses the time she beat up Bubba the Love Sponge in TNA. If you don't know the story, Bubba the Love Sponge while in TNA had some not so nice things to say after the earthquakes in Haiti, calling them a cleansing. Awesome Kong, who was helping with relief for the people of Haiti, didn't take too kindly to this and infamously beat up Bubba backstage. Based Kong. She describes how the events went down here.
And now later on in the locker room, he's not with Hogan.
He's not with Hogan.
And you have a clear shot. Now, when you approach him, does he immediately know he's going to be hit? Or is he going to, hey, what's up?
Well, anybody running at you with their fists in the air and yelling and screaming like a maniac, if they don't know they're going to get hit, then they deserve to get hit anyway.
What are you saying as you're running?
Just screaming like an effing maniac. Just, wow.
What does he do? Does he jump behind something? Okay, here I am. You're coming at me?
He deflected the, like I said, you know when you're about to get hit. So he deflected the first punch.
Which was a right or a left?
It was a right.
Okay, so I deflected it like that.
Okay.
Right.
And then I come in, and
Right.
come right here.
Right.
And then he cowers down.
Like
Cower
this.
down like a
Cowering
bitch.
down like a bitch. Like a bitch.
Like a bitch.
Like a this.
Okay,
Oh,
then-
all the way down.
Then I start playing knick-knack, paddywhack.
So he went down into the feet.
There isn't really any specific Jim Cornette interview that I would recommend for you to go and check out, because literally any of Jim Cornette's interviews are good shouts. He has an opinion on every aspect of wrestling, and any aspect of wrestling that you want to know his opinion on is just so accessible. It's out there on a DVD or on an interview somewhere. You can find his opinion on anything in wrestling, but some of Cornette's most infamous shoots are when he is ranting about hardcore wrestling. Jim Cornette is notorious for hating hardcore and deathmatch wrestling. Essentially, he believes that it isn't real wrestling and doesn't belong in the business. Jim Cornette has gone off multiple times on the various outlaw mud show wrestlers and promotions, and he does it many times nowadays. It's something you probably know him for, but he was doing that as far back as 20 years ago. This interview is from 2003. Jim Cornette has been a firm hater of hardcore wrestling for 20 years. You kinda gotta respect that dedication.
We're hardcore. We're fucking, we're better than everybody else. They're cutting themselves with broken glass. They're snapping mouse traps on each other. They're staple gunning their tongues to the fucking turnbuckles. So this paper does this story. Fans bring the weapons. They're hitting each other with VCRs. They're really hitting each other. Guess what, folks? Doesn't take any talent to do that. I can hit a motherfucker as hard in the head with a baseball bat as almost anybody else. That don't mean I'm Ric Flair. They do a story. In front of 75 people in a warehouse, these fucking guys are mutilating themselves, and Ian Rotten and his fucking shyster business partner are making any money there is to be made off of it because they ain't paying the guys none. We're doing business with one of the biggest radio stations in town. We're doing business with goddamn sponsors, businesses, legitimate people. I don't want them to pick up Leo. They don't know too much about wrestling. They say, and I go, fuck, Junior, you ain't going to see that shit. Combat Zone Wrestling, whoever the fuck they are, I think they're the same kind of thing as Ian, only maybe with a little bit bigger budget, and fuck them too. While I'm talking about it, fuck you, Combat Zone Wrestling. Never been anybody, never gonna be anybody. I've sold more tickets in my sleep than you will in your lives, and I ain't even nobody.
You might have heard him in this interview discuss Ian Rotten as well, which brings us very nicely into our last entry on the list. This interview is 2 hours of Ian Rotten being absolutely laid into and ripped apart by people that he's wronged. It's one of the most satisfying listens ever. We start off with the interviewer, who, by the way, does not hold anything back whatsoever, just grilling Ian on his promoter troubles, such as not paying wrestlers, owing people money, and all his other escapades and filthiness are brought in this opening statement in the interview, such as his alleged abuse of Mickey Knuckles. The host also reveals some off-the-record information about how Ian Rotten will be main eventing a Juggalo Championship Wrestling show, which Ian gets really heated over him revealing because it was off the record and he asked him not to do it.
Thanks for having me.
Ian, we need to talk a little bit about a few things here. Your reputation in the business is not what one would consider a stellar reputation. You have a history of owing people money. By your own admission, you owe over 10 people over $3,000. You have done benefit shows in the past, one for one of your referees, Harry Palmer, who needed a headstone for his young son that passed away, and the stories that came out of that show was that it was a full house, you were doing great on concessions, and the amount that you gave Harry Palmer was in $500 or less. There are allegations that you had a physical altercation with Mickey Knuckles and did some bodily injury to her. And you also said that you are scheduled to be in the main event this weekend for JCW, which is the Insane Clown Posse, and their Juggalo Championship Wrestling. And I have in front of me the lineup for that show that lists the main event as Corporal Robinson against Richie Boy Briar Wellington. So who are we to believe when it comes...
First of all, dude, you just broke a cardinal rule of anything of reporting and lost all credibility with me whatsoever. I told you that off the record. It's a surprise thing, and you just blew it.
It's not a surprise thing, Ian, if it's on the internet, and it's part of what the ICP is putting out. And, there are no surprises when it comes to ICP. And my credibility is far more valid than yours at this point.
The host then also questions Ian over the allegations of paying JC Bailey in drugs, and basically gets an admission that he did.
Let's talk about one of the things that is dogging you the most, okay? And that is the thing with JC Bailey and the funeral, and JC Bailey in general, all right? Now, JC Bailey, for those that do not know, is the son of Joe Bailey, one of the most well-known people down around in the Mid-South area. His son got into the business. You took him under your wing, and there was a night that JC worked for you 5 times. Was it a King of the Death Match event? Am I correct in saying that?
He worked 4 times in 2 days.
Okay. All right, 4 times in 2 days. And the report that I got, that he got $60 from you and a handful of pills. Now, you said earlier, and I'm going to quote you, you paid JC $110 for working those 4 or 5 times, whichever the case may be, and then JC came and bought pills from you. Is that a correct statement?
Well, actually, you also have to add in the fact that he was also paid $75 on night 1.
Okay. Now, at the shows where you paid him $100 and whatever dollars, and you said he came and bought pills from you after the show, is that a fair statement? You sold JC pills at your show.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes you a drug dealer. You sold drugs to an addict.
We mentioned Mickey Knuckles before about the allegations of him injuring her, and Mickey Knuckles then calls in to go and grill Ian over those allegations, and yeah, she does not hold back any punches whatsoever.
Hi Ian, how are you?
Nice. I'm fantastic.
Even know who the fuck this is?
Yeah, it's Mickey.
Yeah, so why do you want to tell people some bullshit lies that you didn't beat the fuck out of me, and then you want to spread about 5 or 6 rumors that I got to hear about when I go to Illinois, and when I go to fucking Chicago, when I go to fucking St. Louis, and they tell me all these 5 or 6 rumors. Fucking Corporal even told me a rumor that Daddy called him on. And you're going to tell all these fucking rumors of lies, but you're not even going to tell them that fact you beat the fuck out of me?
Mickey, I didn't beat you up, and you know that.
You didn't. That's why your wife tried to call the cops twice in the same fucking night.
Never had an affair.
Okay, Ian, you know what? Because I've been nice. I have turned down shoot interview after fucking shoot interview because I didn't want to do this to fucking public. But when Jerry told me you were having him on your show, and he fucking told me what you said about me, that just pissed me off no fucking end. I have been fucking nothing but nice and pretty. This is done. Everything now
Mickey,
will come out of
you up, and you know that. You know I didn't beat you up.
You bent me backwards in the fucking kitchen over the countertop and tried to stick a fucking screwdriver in my fucking eyeball. You tried to fucking kill me, Ian.
IWA wrestler Bull Payne just calls in, and I'm just going to let you listen to this because he just, oh my god, listen to this.
Again, you run your mouth about shit that you don't even know about. You weren't around. All you're doing is listening to someone else who has a beef because you have a beef with me. You're a waste of human life. You have no knowledge. You have no knowledge whatsoever.
You're a cancer to the wrestling business, and if I didn't lose my job, I would beat the fuck out of you every time I see you. You are the most disgusting piece of crap that I have ever fucking laid my eyes on, and you are a cancer to the wrestling business.
And finally, Joseph Bailey, the father of J.C. Bailey, calls in and again just rips Ian a new one. He says Ian and IWA Mid-South played a part in his son's death, and he talks about other people Ian has wronged, as well as mentioning the fact that Ian asked for gas money from him at J.C.'s funeral. Have a listen to this.
Let me count the people in the time that I've been with you that I know you shit on or you screwed. Let's go back to King of Death matches over in Indiana when that little dumb kid by the name of Ray went and took a second mortgage for over $20,000 on his home. Remember him?
I sure do.
Never got a dime back from you. Kid lost his home.
No, he didn't.
Kid lost his home. He didn't get nothing out of you. And now that I've heard, and I've got it on a DVD or a CD that this guy's going to run off, that you sold my kid drugs, give my hand to God. I told you I was going to be your nightmare. I'm going to town that you held that damn death hermit in. I'm going to turn it over to the prosecutor and see if your ass can be prosecuted for selling drugs to my son. You come to my son's funeral, my ex-wife didn't want your ass there. She threw a screaming hissy, threw a fit, showed her ass. But I made it possible just for you to visit my son because I thought you cared a little bit about him. And then when you go out to the parking lot, you sit out there and you cry. I didn't know about it 2 weeks later till you told me. My sister-in-law gave you gas money to leave the facility. She didn't tell you she was sorry that my ex or the JC's mother ripped your ass. That's a damn lie from hell. The shit you do helped kill my son. You didn't help kill him. He got in the ring and done the shit himself. But the shit that you do, and you're not going to bring nobody on family entertainment. That's never going to happen. And I promise you, I am going to be on you like the white and the black on a damn leopard. I'm going to stay on your ass. Believe that, trust that, believe it. Say what you want to. I'm going to get you. If I would have knew you had sold my son drugs or gave my drugs son at the funeral home, you wouldn't have stayed. You are a damn liar. You told me that, I would have shot you at the damn. I would have shot your ass.
I would highly recommend checking out this interview. It's 2 hours of Ian Rotten just being absolutely destroyed, and it's without a doubt the most satisfying thing I've ever listened to. Jim Cornette's rants on extreme wrestling and deathmatch wrestling have been something that have particularly caught the ear of listeners. If you aren't aware, Jim Cornette despises deathmatch wrestling. He hates it as he considers it to not be real wrestling, and also due to his history with Ian Rotten, who got wrestling banned in many venues in Kentucky due to the stuff taking place on IWA Mid-South shows, much to the dismay of Jim Cornette. In this interview here, he lets his feelings be known on hardcore wrestling and individuals involved in hardcore wrestling.
This hardcore bullshit where suddenly, I like the business, as Dutch Mantell always says in his greatest line, I like the business a lot better when the marks were out front in the seats. All of a sudden, guys are beating the fuck out of each other for real in front of a bunch of people who know that everything they're doing is choreographed, and they're cheering it because they're really hurting each other. What kind of fucking psychology is that? And they're doing it for practically no money, and they're also doing it just for the sake of being on television so the people chant ECW. Why do the wrestlers in the ring want the people to chant the name of the promotion? It used to be, go Ricky, go, go. Now it's ECW. Oh great, I just fractured my fucking sacroiliac, broke my fucking leg, and shoved a fucking wooden spike up my taint. And they're not chanting Jim, 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 they're chanting ECW. Great.
He also discusses the 2008 film The Wrestler starring Mickey Rourke, in which he gives a fairly unpopular opinion and gives reasons as to why he doesn't like the film, which really surprised me as this film is very critically acclaimed and I've only ever seen it praised by people in and out of the wrestling business.
The Wrestler, right? I saw a bootleg DVD because I couldn't go to the movies in Louisville because many people know who I am there. I've been on TV there for 25 fucking years. And I was embarrassed because now people look at you like, oh, you're in that wrestling, but they take staple guns and staple dollar bills to each other's heads and cut each other with razor blades? What kind of fucking morons might they be? I would rather move next door to somebody on the federal sex offender registry, than move next door to somebody in the wrestling business after seeing The Wrestler. Broken down, drug addict, has no family, and fucking slices and dices himself to pieces on the fucking weekends for chicken feed.
On the 18th of July 2005, The Ultimate Warrior's first ever shoot interview was released. This was a huge event. Warrior had a very turbulent career in wrestling, as well as a very turbulent relationship with the WWE. This was the same year that WWE released their Self-Destruction of Ultimate Warrior DVD. He'd been involved in lawsuits with WWE over his name and likeness for years, and also ran a blog where he would often just trash the WWE and people like Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, and Vince McMahon. And in this 2005 interview, he took the opportunity to make sure he ripped into everyone.
A lot of the guys down there, Chris Adams, of course there were a lot of assholes too. Matt Bourne was down there, the guy that went on to become a dork. He was a real dickhead. Buzz Sawyer, was a real nutcase. I mean, those guys were really malicious. They really tried to hurt you. Bruiser Brody. I mean, a lot of guys that aren't around anymore. I mean, I haven't written my book yet. A lot of the stories about them. Hogan's whole life has been a work. And there's nothing about his life that's ever been unplanned. So he probably had it planned out from the beginning.
What's your take on Jake Roberts? Because he's a character in the business and a person in the business that everybody seems to have a million stories about. So what do you...
Well, I think Jake has probably revealed more stories and more of the substance about himself than anybody else could add to it. I mean, he's a liar, and he's a lech, he's a loser, and there's not much more to say.
Warrior's most known public feud was with Hulk Hogan, who Warrior would talk shit about for years. In 2011, he filmed and uploaded a 52-minute video of him all just talking about Hulk Hogan and his disdain for him.
Terry, the biggest mistake that you've made all these years that you've worked to mischaracterize me and paint this picture of me being a horrible human being, the biggest mistake that you made was that you worked yourself into believing that I was not even there at that time and place where our lives crossed paths. I mean, when you talk about Warrior, Ultimate Warrior, you talk about me like my presence and participation never even existed. It's incredible how you and others do. It's like you think if you don't mention it or you belittle it in a really violent way, that history will be changed, that the memory of it will just disappear forever. And that's just ridiculous. In your mind, there was only room for Terry Bollea and nobody else. You know that I know what kind of malicious and backstabbing operator you are. And you know that when I have something to say about you, it is not a guess. Others know it too. They know that I don't bullshit. They know that I never have. On the other hand, you have a long-running reputation for being a liar and a fraud and a phony.
At Starrcade 99 for WCW, Bret Hart defended his WCW World Heavyweight Championship against Goldberg, and during the match, Hart was struck with a thrust kick to the head, resulting in a severe concussion. This is what ultimately would cause Bret Hart to retire from wrestling and end his wrestling career. And this happened 24 years ago, but I'll tell you right now that Bret Hart has not forgiven Goldberg. It's pretty well known that he has not forgiven Goldberg because he sneaks in disses to Goldberg in pretty much every statement he ever makes publicly. Bret Hart despises Goldberg for ending his career.
Do you ever think about if you hadn't had to retire when you did, do you think you would have been the kind of guy that in your kind of late 40s you still have been going and you still have been wrestling?
Hell yeah. I would have shit, those guys wrestled in Saudi Arabia and each guy got paid $3 million each. Bill Goldberg, who kicked me in the head, never even thought about it, 8 months later, went over to Saudi Arabia, got paid $3 million for a 5 minutes wrestling match and put all that money in his pocket, but never once thought about costing me $16 million when he kicked me in the head. And so, you know, I regret that I got injured by a guy that couldn't wrestle and has no business of being in a Hall of Fame. You know, he should be in the Hall of Shame.
Just going to try to go out and do my job. I would have loved to have worked a little bit more with Bret Hart, and I would have loved more than anything to have not kicked Bret Hart in the head, you know, and what happened. There have been things said on the internet, either by Bret or other people, that I was malicious and he shouldn't have been in the ring with me. And hey, I'm really sorry, man. But if I really wanted to hurt the guy, he would never have gotten up. Okay, and I'm no joke. He would have gotten up. But accidents happen, and he was an idol of mine and still is.
That's it from me though, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what shoot interviews you want me to talk about next on the channel and showcase here on the Top 10 Wrestling channel. Any suggestions are welcome. Subscribe, notifications on so you never miss a video on the Top 10 Wrestling channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye and keep on rolling.